Hi everyone. I'm here with Lynn. Lynn is one of my students, amazing students, and I've been interviewing my students recently about their journey to Bowspring and their experiences. And I really wanted Lynn to share because she has such a unique experience with that. and yeah, so Lynn, please share your journey to Bowspring and your experience with it. And yeah, just anything you want to share with us.
Well, I'd be delighted to, Nargisa. Thank you for asking. I have been one of your students for, I guess, about a year now. And I came to Bowspring from a fairly varied sort of cross-training approach to health and fitness. I enjoy a lot of other activities. I'm a tennis player. And I like to walk, I like to hike, I do some elliptical, some stationary bicycle, and some other things. And yoga. I have been doing yoga off and on for a couple of decades, and I've always enjoyed it. I still do the body flow class at the club. And there were some things that I thought were missing. And I happened to see a Bowspring demonstration online as part of another yoga group that I'm involved with. And I thought, oh, wow, that's different. And I at first thought, well, that's not anything I can do, because when you first see the video, it looks like there's a lot of emphasis on hyperextension of the back. And I thought, well, that's not for me, because I had been told by medical professionals that I should avoid any exercises that hyperextended my back, because of a condition I have with my lower back that leaves it already pretty much hyperextended. So I originally thought, well, I probably shouldn't do that. It doesn't look safe for me. But I had noticed that yoga, regular yoga, even though everybody says, and I'm sure it does, it's very good for your back, it's supposed to help with back pain, in my case it didn't. There were times when certain yoga poses that I was hoping would help my back either hurt or didn't help. And so I thought, well, something is not right here. So I took another look at the Bowspring video, and I thought, well, wait a minute, maybe there is a little something to this, because he is talking about engaging certainly the back part of the lower body. And so I thought, well, okay, at home where nobody can see me, I'm going to try this, because to be honest, I think when you first see Bowspring, the first thing that comes to mind is that hyperextension of the back, and you think, well, gosh, is that for me? I don't know if I can do that, and it kind of looks a little silly. I don't know how to do that. So I very carefully did this little 5-minute introductory video, and I was very careful not to injure myself. And I noticed when I finished, I thought, well, oh, okay. Not only did it not hurt, but it actually felt a little better. So maybe I can do this after all. And a few months after that, I had an opportunity to attend one of your classes at our club, and I was just delighted. I thought I had come home. Not only was everybody just nice and inviting, but also there were some friends there that I already knew from other yoga classes. So I was excited to try it, and I noticed afterwards that, hey, I felt pretty good. There were things that I couldn't do, but there were enough things that I could do that at the end of the practice, I felt lighter. I felt better. I modified the poses just to be safe, and was slow and careful about it. I noticed that after I finished with the class, I felt lighter. I felt more engaged in my back body. I was able to walk more gracefully. That effect carried on actually for several hours after the class, and I was a little surprised. I noticed that I felt better in other activities. Tennis felt better. So in other words, I was very excited. I did not hurt myself. This was great. And I noticed after a while that some other little things that I was doing were improved as well. For instance, when I tried during the week, as you teach, to use this alignment in our everyday activities, I would go for long walks, and I had noticed that during my walks, my upper back would start to be a little tense and achy, which made no sense to me. I couldn't figure that out. So, but I noticed if I did the Bowspring walk, that sort of paw first walk, it did two things. It engaged my hips a little bit more. It engaged my back body a little bit more. And after a few 100 yards or so of walking that way, the tension in my upper back would start to ease.
Oh.
And then the rest of the walk, it would go away. Yeah. And so I was delighted to feel that, because there hasn't been anything else that I have tried that points that out. Mm-hmm. And then I was very excited to be able to use that training when I was training for a very long hike on the Inca Trail to Machu Picchu last August. And I really feel like the Bowspring practice helped to strengthen my back body, helped to engage parts of my body, particularly that are not engaged in any other activity that I do. And they were body parts that, in my case, because of my anatomy, were basically cut off. The lower back condition that I have results in a pretty hyperextended lower back to begin with. So it puts unnecessary load on the front body, unnecessary tone. I've got great abs, but unnecessary, but almost nothing behind, because the back body is not engaged. Mm-hmm. And so being able to do that with Bowspring really helped balance things. There have been a couple other little things I've noticed as a result of the Bowspring. First of all, when I'm in the classes, I still find myself, and I think some of the new people might do this too, so I'm going to share this. I would find myself worried about looking like everybody else, worried about looking like my lovely teacher who is so flexible and looks so gorgeous. And I would start during the class trying to focus on extending my back too much. And I would find myself sort of focusing on that and not focusing on the rest of the posture. And not only would it start to hurt or cramp, but the postures would be difficult. And when I stopped doing that, when I just said, don't worry about extending your back and looking like that. Focus on the rest of the Bowspring alignment. Just engage your glutes, stand up a little taller, widen your ribs. I'd go, oh my goodness, I can do this. Yes. And I could do them a little bit better. And then you would come by and you would make little tiny tweaks to my posture and get it into that Bowspring alignment just a little bit better. And a pose that seemed difficult at first would all of a sudden become easy. And I actually found myself able to do some things that I had been told were something I couldn't do. And I'm still very careful. But I do remember in one practice where the class was working on back bends. And I thought, I can't do that. I'm not supposed to do that. And so what I did was I said, well, wait a minute, just take the alignment, modify it to what feels right for you, slow and easy. I was well warmed up. And before I know it, I was able to do a back bend, and I was so excited, and it felt safe, and it didn't hurt. It didn't hurt while I was doing it, and it didn't hurt after I was doing it either. So I really credit the Bowspring alignment for being able to balance some things that either due to my physical structure or due to my other activities were very much out of balance. And there are certain other activities, tennis, for instance, which is my passion and my love. Tennis is really fun and good for you, but if you don't cross train, tennis is an inherently unbalanced sport because we hit with one side of our body over the other, whether we're left-handed or right-handed. So Bowspring tends to be a really good complement to the cross training that I was doing to keep myself from suffering injuries in tennis, and I think that has really helped. Yes. Along with, and I could go on and on for this because I noticed just little things. I also noticed that so much of our imbalances and our injuries are due to problems with our kinetic chain. Starting from our feet, coming up to the top of our head. And there was a pose that you were having us do just a few days ago where we picked up our foot, and all we were working on was pronating and supinating, moving that foot inside and out, stand on one foot, hold the other one up, and sort of pronate and supinate. And it was really interesting because I noticed as part of that practice, all of a sudden something just seemed to open up from the bottom of my toe to the top of my head. It was like an energetic channel opened up, like all of a sudden that whole area from bottom to top just felt like I had breathed into it and I got more oxygen. And I thought, wow, that was very interesting. Now, it felt to me like a channel was opening up, which as an acupuncturist made a whole lot of sense for me. And I'm sure that body workers would probably recognize that as well. But it's exciting, and it's something that very few other practices have shown or been quite so obvious about. So I really feel like the Bowspring practice will help keep me fit and strong, and over time is really helping to strengthen some areas and hopefully prevent more injuries later on. Not to mention it's just fun and everybody's really nice.
Oh, that's amazing. What an amazing testimony. Thank you, Lynn.
You're welcome.
Oh yeah, it's amazing to me how you're aware of these changes, and moreover that you take what you're learning to your everyday life, that you make it functional, and and that's what I always emphasize in my classes. Just don't take it what you learn on this mat and take it to everyday life, and just notice, the way you sit down, the way you stand, the way you walk, the way you cook, the way you do anything, it will change. It will change for sure. Thank you so much. It was that's interesting that the first that's what I hear when people come first to the Bowspring class, and they always approach me with the scared look on their faces. And they will say, okay, well, I had this and this, and I'm not sure. I don't know. I will try. And I would always say, yeah, listen to your body and just do what you can do. Stay engaged. And most people, whatever they go and Google Bowspring, it usually comes out, the most advanced poses or transitions and practices, which is, I teach basics too. We start from ABC. So for the newbies or people with injuries, it's very thoughtful approach, therapeutic even. So don't be afraid. And those people usually come after the class, the first class to me, and they would say, wow, what was I afraid of? Their revelation is just like their eyes are sparkling, and the smiles are just amazing. Yeah, so, and you mentioned about looking kind of, looking just like your teacher, or, the emphasis on, I just want to just push my body and look like that. And it was very, very good observation that, no, wait a second, I'm going to work with my body that I got now, and I will do my best. What would you recommend to people, those who look from outside, they never tried Bowspring, and they would look at the Bowspring alignment, they would say two things. First, they would say, this looks ridiculous, silly. And the second one, they usually, those people who would, practice yoga, they would say that it's not yoga.
Oh, I would absolutely encourage somebody who has not tried Bowspring to come and try it, because that was exactly me. I saw the first video online, and I thought, oh my gosh, that looks a little weird. I could never do that, and I could certainly never go do it in a class with other people. And but I would encourage anybody who is thinking about it to look past that, because two things. One is, yes, you absolutely can modify in any class. You can modify the poses to be safe for you. You do not have to look like an advanced Bowspring practitioner the first time or the 6th time or the 10th time. After 12 months or so, I don't look like an advanced Bowspring practitioner. And I've learned to get past that. I would highly encourage you to try it anyway. And if you are a fan of other types of yoga, come anyway. I do other yoga. I do body flow, which is a combination of yoga and Pilates and Tai Chi. And although I find myself sometimes slipping into my new Bowspring alignment in my body flow and other yoga classes, I still find that it's a very good combination, and I still will sometimes shift into a down dog. If I need a little bit of rest from a Bowspring pose that's particularly difficult for my body, I will just shift into a down dog, which is a traditional yoga pose. But absolutely, you can combine it in different ways. I've seen other yoga instructors that have taken a little bit of Bowspring, and I've watched some of their demonstrations, and I see them putting a little bit of the Bowspring alignment in. So it very much is, I think, a style of yoga and a style of practice that is adjustable to whatever that individual needs. And every class I've been in, we have new people, and you and the other students are nothing but supportive, because none of us is perfect, and we will probably never look like experts, but absolutely you can modify it, and yeah, come try it out. I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah. And what would you tell them, those people who say that that is not yoga?
Oh, I think anytime people learn a certain technique that works for them, that's what is yoga in their minds to them. And that's fine. I think we all benefit from opening our minds, because so many of us do that about not only yoga, but everything we do. I take weaving classes, and I was taking an online weaving course, and somebody asked a question, and somebody else said, oh, that's not weaving. It's not real weaving, because the technique is a little different. Well, it's not what they learned as weaving. And yes, this may not be what one person learned as yoga, but if you look at the different types of yoga, there's so many varieties of yoga out there, and they're not all the same either. So there may be ways, again, that you need to modify the Bowspring poses. I still modify those hyperextension poses to fit what works for me. I still throw in some of the older style regular yoga poses in other classes or other times. I think it's all a balance, but what I can tell you is, from a person who has had some back issues that are a little different, Bowspring helped what the traditional yoga did not. So I would say that yes, it definitely is yoga. It is a different style of yoga, and I think definitely has its benefits.
Yes, yes, and I always counter question, what is yoga?
Yeah.
So and to me, Bowspring is yoga, because when I practice Bowspring, at the moment I am so present, because it asks me to engage my body, the whole body, to bring all of my parts of myself into the practice, and also observe my breath, and the way I transition from one pose to another, even the pulses we do, and those are transitions, little pulsations, yeah, to me that is more yoga. That I haven't been present in my life during this practice. This brings me to the moment, like that.
Well,
So,
and it's also okay for it not to be traditional yoga in some ways. I find Bowspring much more graceful and much more like dance than a lot of yoga. But then I also find Tai Chi very graceful and very much like dance, and they all combine well together. Yeah. So in some ways, it doesn't have to be the same as other yoga. It is in addition to, and has some different, and in my case, better advantages.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Oh, it's been such a pleasure to hear your experiences and sharing.
I'm excited to share, and again, would invite anybody to come and join our class, because it's a great group. Thank you, Nargiza.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Ta-da! It was perfect.
Oh, is that okay?
Oh, it was awesome. It
I
was
didn't talk
the best interview I ever done.
Oh my gosh.
No, it was great.
I
You
was
were.
very like, oh, I'm talking too much. And you
No,
still
no,
have
no.
you still have the recorder on, so you have to edit all this part out, right?
Oh, it's all stopped already.
No.